and on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt. Proud to be here with you inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. Appreciate you being here with us this morning and every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Once again, the Cafe Kubal studios. So Cafe Kubal bringing you their amazing flavors here right in our community. Make sure you get out to 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, 401 South Salina Street, all in Syracuse, New York, inside of Golisano's Children's Hospital in downtown Syracuse, and of course on the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners in our drive-through location that you'll find right there. And you can also find them at 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, New York, in their giant behemoth of a brown stripe building. So, a lot of amazing ways to connect to Cafe Kubal, and we appreciate everybody that has. We look forward to you filling your cup up right today and every day. And of course, you know how I am about my chai, and that is a Cafe Kubal staple for me. So make sure you head out there today. With that being said, we have a fantastic show set up for you today. Inside of MonPawsPopcorn.com's What's Poppin', we have the opportunity to have another edition of the Bobcat Buzz. You know that we have an exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with Bryant Stratton College of Syracuse, and the Bobcats every single month are here with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora as we get to share their stories of the leadership that they have, the student athletes that they have, and so much more connected to Bryant Stratton College of Syracuse and the Bobcats programs. Today, as you can see, I'm there with Nick Dimitrievski holding up a championship award. We have the opportunity to tell the story of Nick Dimitrievski. He's the athletic director at Bryant Stratton College of Syracuse. He's also been the longtime head coach of the men's soccer team at Bryant Stratton, and he knows what it takes to win a championship. He knows what it takes to get all the way to the end and to be able to secure that which you are going after and those hopes and dreams that you have. So we will learn from a leader of where does he get his leadership from, how has he pieced different things together in his life, who has he read from, what has he taken from to create the world he lives in today. And we get to talk to him about being a creator. So many great things about his journey, being able to get to a national championship, win a national championship, sustain success, and so much more. The journey of how Nick Dimitrievski became Nick Dimitrievski is a beautiful piece that we'll be able to tell today in a sit-down discussion that you'll only find on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. That's coming up momentarily. And after that, we will be in hour number 2 having our official corner. Loving this. The officials corner, where we have the opportunity to hang out with Mike Kitts Jr. and Mike Kitts Sr., two NCAA connected officials or officiating in some way, shape, or form. Mike Sr. was an NCAA official for 4 decades. Now he's a coordinator of men's basketball officiating, helping multiple conferences with making sure that their officials are figuring out the rules correctly, enacting those rules correctly, and looking around the country and working with J.D. Collins to make sure that there's the best officiating, especially as you go through the tournament. So Mike has had a ton of years and a wealth of knowledge, and he'll be joining us around 10:45 a.m. Eastern Time to speak on some plays and different things that have stuck out to him in the tournaments, be it the NCAA or the CBI and whatnot. We'll also talk with Mike, since he's been connected to basketball for so long and so many coaches and conferences, what he thinks about the NIT leaving the Garden at least for the next 2 years. And before that, with Mike Kitts Jr., we'll be able to talk with Mike Kitts Jr. about his take on what's going on in the world of college basketball and what he took away from this season as well, which I'm very excited to speak with him about. A lot of great stuff coming up here with Mike Kitts Jr. and Mike Kitts Sr. And Mike Kitts Jr. having worked games in the Horizon, the MAC, the Ivy, the Summit, and the Patriot League this season. So we'll have plenty of time to talk about a bunch of different things and plays and what he took away from the season. So, awesome stuff. A Bobcat Buzz exclusive coming up in just a moment with Nick Dimitrievski. And in hour number 2, the officiating corner with Mike Kitts Jr. and Mike Kitts Sr. giving their view of what's been going on in the college basketball world and on the officiating side of things this season. So a lot of great stuff coming up. Start off your week. Hard to believe this, but to start off your final week of March, as this Friday will actually be April 1st, and that is not an April Fool's joke. That is the truth. So We'll take a step aside inside the Cafe Kubal studios. When we spin back around, Nick Dimitrievski joins me for a Bobcat Buzz exclusive special. And then we'll have our officiating corner with the Kitts family, Kitts Jr. and Kitts Sr. coming up here. Love the fact that they not only have it in the family to go out there and officiate, but the fact that they come from the Central New York community and that they give me their time so generously where we can ask the questions. You know, a lot of us, pretty much all of us, scream at the television. Well, here's an opportunity to understand through the eyes of an official, which I think is a very unique thing to do, and that's why I love doing it here on the show. So, take a step aside from the Cafe Kubal studios. We'll be back right after this with Nick Dimitrievski, the athletic director and men's soccer head coach, as well as national champion, with the Bryant Stratton Syracuse Bobcats right after this.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
Cafe Kubal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafekubal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Kubal needs. Cafe Kubal, coffee for the soul.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant. Hello everyone, and welcome here to our all-new edition of the Bobcat Buzz, here with Bryant Stratton College of Syracuse Bobcats Athletics Director, as well as men's soccer head coach Nick Dimitrievski. Nick, as always, good to see you.
Thank you.
And of course, I'm your host here, Dan Tortora, and our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with Bryant Stratton College here in Syracuse with the Bobcats. And behind us, there is a lot of hardware. And I know that Alex will get me for this in another conversation, but this is his, the rest are yours. And so let's speak on the success of Bryant Stratton in men's soccer and why you feel it has been sustained success.
I remember when I first interviewed for the position and being a young kid and having an opportunity to build something was so special. And I promised myself I would do everything in my being to make that happen. We didn't have fields. We were just starting from scratch. And that's what I did. I outworked everybody and developed relationships. Got lucky in my very first year that the first ever recruit that I ever had was a guy by the name of Shalry Joseph that ended up being an 8-time MLS All-Star. But the program has grown We've won 3 national championships, 5 runners-up. We've had world-class players, and it continues. I'm so proud of where we've gone.
When you look at the success of this program, and like you said, starting it as a young kid, when we go all the way back to the beginning, what made you want to create something here at Bryant Stratton, and what inside of you at that time said, I can do this?
Yeah, I was a counselor for mentally ill, chemically addicted people after college, and it's tough getting a job.
Yeah.
And you didn't know exactly where you wanted to go in life, and then this opening came, and I'm like, that's what I want to do, and I wouldn't let anybody else have it. You know what I'm saying? I did everything possible. I knew if I outworked everybody, developed some context, everything would come through. And that's what I did, and probably on the coaching standpoint, I've read Bobby Knight, all the big coaches, Pat Riley, and one of my biggest inspirations was a guy by the name of Anthony Robbins, the famous motivator.
Yeah.
And I put all their philosophies in one, and that's part of the way I see it. And I did that really early on, and I think that really helped. I remember Pat Riley's covenant. They signed a contract, what the players believe in, so I put that in my own philosophy, So it's just a learning process, but at the end of the day, I had that ego about me that no one's going to do this better than I can, but it's a continuous learning process.
And as you took all of these leadership styles and ways about it that you had studied, how would you describe what the mashup looks like?
Great question. So I was an athlete growing up. I loved baseball, basketball, football. And we're probably the most dynamic soccer program. We have 10 corner kick plays. We have 10 goal kick plays. Now, when someone hears that, you got goal kick plays, to try to get it up. A lot of my direct kick plays are screens, trick plays that come from basketball, from football, wide receivers, So it's all that creativity in one that produces a beautiful style of game that kids love to play.
When you look back at your early 20s and you look at today, how old are you today?
55.
So you're looking at 3 decades of coaching a beautiful sport. What has created sustained success when you talk about 3 national championships, 5 runners-up? How do you, and especially in the here and now, and recently in this past season of 2021, how do you create success? Second, how do you sustain it?
You gotta be self-motivated. That's the number one thing. You gotta look for angles, opportunities that is gonna motivate you. Losing will motivate you, How do I sustain it? We've done a really good job. We're very supportive. Each year, I got to go out and get a bulk of players.
Yeah.
So networking, being real, being genuine.
Mm-hmm.
Coaches are not going to trust me to put their players with me if I don't treat them right.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. This was years ago. I would have a big contact in New York City, and then I noticed I wasn't getting those players from that contact. Well, once you know it, other players got in the mix of that academy that I would get into it. So right away I went down there, had some coffee, and developed a relationship with the other powers to be. And then soon after that, we ended up continuously getting kids from them. So that's what I'm trying to say. Reinvent yourself, seeing what some issues are, and continuing to get better each day. In our style, we play this old school, modern twist, 4-4-2 diamond system that you don't see. And you literally outnumber someone at each point of the game. And when you tell that to an 18-year-old kid that has no idea that this was back in the 70s, they look at you like, you know, with three eyes. But once they understand the genius behind it, they love to play it. And it produces such a beautiful style of soccer.
Why did you choose that style?
Great question. So I would say we started playing this maybe 6, 7, 8 years ago. Prior to that, we toyed with 4-3-3. Before we were 4-4-2. The modern athlete has changed. The modern athlete is not a complete player. The modern athlete finds areas to be, for lack of a better word, lazy. We used to play a man marking system. And I would say within the past 7, 8 years, you don't find that. Kids do not want to put forth that type of hard-working effort to man mark. And I was just toying with a lot of different variations and came across it. I'm like, man, we can do this, what we used to play, with some modern aspects of it. And boy, did that take off. At each point of any part of the game, you have a numerical advantage. And it's very hard to play against. It is very hard to play against. You got 4 versus 2, 3 at all points of the game.
Coming here from Nick Dimitrievski, the athletics director at Bryant Stratton College in Syracuse, as well as the men's soccer head coach. I got to tell you that when we talk about your successes and we talk about when you started and whatnot, it doesn't seem like it's been 30 years. It really doesn't. For you, do you feel that? I mean, you are a very vibrant, you're excited. When I met you and you're sitting here at your desk, my first impression of you was you take this place seriously. You take what you do seriously, you take how you do it seriously, and you want it to be respected. So I know you have a passion. Where does that come from, and was there ever a moment in 3 decades where the passion dipped and you had to re-challenge yourself?
I don't think the passion ever dipped. I think that's the ego I have inside of me. You know, I've always aspired to be a winner, always aspired to do whatever it takes. You know, I came in here when I was 30 years old, and I've learned a lot from my former bosses that have showed me the way, and I've just taken those leadership traits and continuously learned to build a great program.
When you come in and you're running a soccer program, how did you evolve into an athletics director with that? Because you here at Bryant Stratton are overseeing everything, and then being a head coach is a full-time job. Recruiting and everything that you have to do, and planning and facilitating, building, uplifting, practicing, and then playing in the games. On top of that, as an athletics director, you're overseeing every other program and the expansion and evolution of Bryant Stratton, which I believe, based on being around you and Alex and the team, is only onward and upward. So how do you do it?
It wasn't easy, you know. I came in with very little experience. The leadership took a chance on me. You know, they really loved my motivation, genuineness, and I took it and ran with it. You know, I learned a lot. Like I said, I studied a lot of leadership traits, and I listened, you know, and trial and error, and I think we've done a really good job of building an incredible program. Champions in soccer, men's and women's, basketballs just went to the national championships. You know, you try to get like-minded coaches, you know, that have that drive, that grit about them, that are not going to stop and are going to continue to get their goal at all means.
How do you bring in the team that you've brought in? Now, Alex Gregorita, as we talked about before, played for you.
Yep.
And so you bring him in, assistant athletics director, women's soccer head coach. You bring in Dan Frasina to start the men's basketball program. you bring in Clay Gagan Sherman to start the women's basketball program. And as you mentioned, Alex has been to the national championship, has won here in 2021. Dan brought the men's basketball team to the USCAA national tournament for the first time ever this season. Clay has been there more than once, and in COVID times, arguably would have been in great footing as well. And then here comes Sean Peak on his side of it, creating the baseball program, and then you have esports developing as well. So how did you get these people to buy into your vision and your mission? When you're looking for like-minded people, what did you do to search for them, and what did you do, in your opinion, to get them to see the value of Bryant Stratton?
Great question. Sometimes you just know, you know. I knew with Danny right off the bat, you know, he had that drive about him, as do the other coaches. I spent a lot of time with them to get them to understand what it takes to be a champion. Mm-hmm. What you think it might take and what it actually takes to be a champion. I remember with Danny, I went down for a week with him to New York City to help him recruit. And at the last day, he was just spent. He had no idea what it takes. You know, we go through, and this is what I say to my coaches, we probably make close to 3,000 contacts, you know, in a given year. That yields 10 to 15 enrollments. That's a tremendous workload. But you got to have the passion, the drive behind that, and then you will experience all the rewards from that.
And we see that you have obviously created such an environment here that winning and having success and sustaining that, of course, helps in recruiting. When you go out on the recruiting trail, what is the, I want you to give me the secret sauce because I don't want you to give it away, but how would you describe how you tackle the recruiting trail and how you interact with prospective student athletes that would come to Bryant Stratton? How do you get your mission and your vision across to them?
I had a former player that somebody asked him that, say, how does Nick get these recruits?
Yeah.
And that former player said, you could put the top coaches from all the top colleges in a room and he'll get that player. Continuous recruitment, networking, developing yourself, understanding your strengths, your weaknesses, the school's strengths, the school's weaknesses, and positioning that in a package that will really, in a genuine way, mm-hmm. that will really benefit that kid.
You played. You were successful. Do you have a favorite moment of reflection that when you're watching your team practice and play, do you ever have a moment where you look out onto that field and you see, here's Nick running around? Do you have a moment that sticks out to you?
A lot of times. I have that moment with my little 7-year-old.
Okay. What's their name?
Michael.
Michael. Okay, yeah. Shout out to Michael.
I get that, especially when we do something creative. What you're trying to work on that week. When you get a kid that is so inspired, you know, when you get a kid that that really, I have his ear. It's something special, you know. So those are those little pockets. You know, I still play with the guys every once in a while, you know. Yeah, those are pretty special moments that come through.
Alex has height, but you versus him on a soccer field is what?
Oh, I'll tell you a story. Alex came up when he was 26, 5, 6, someplace around there. And, you know, I scrimmaged him, and he didn't touch the ball. Yeah, his quickness wasn't as mine, as quick as I was.
So for you, like you said, understanding your weaknesses, understanding your strengths, looking at your job in that respect, what's about being, well, we'll split it up into athletics director and coaching. So we'll start with being an athletics director. What is your favorite part of that, and what is the most challenging part of it?
favorite part of being an athletic director is putting this big puzzle together. The most challenging part is putting this big puzzle together. You got to work with a lot of moving parts, and it can be very difficult. When we first broke in, a lot of people associated us with who we weren't, and we've grown so much. We just recently met with the county executive, and it was a great meeting, and it's not who we were, is not who we are. And I think that's part of the challenge too, is continuously to develop, grow, promote that brand, and do good in the community.
Who, when you look back upon what Bryant Stratton College here in Syracuse was thought to be, what were some things that you felt like we have to dispel this and let people know exactly who we are? What were some of the things that people maybe said, this is what we see, as opposed to what it is?
Yep. We were a sleeping giant. We were a school that people associated us with. It may be a secretarial school, maybe back in the day. We have grown. We have all these majors. We have 2- and 4-year majors now. That's why we jumped to the USCA. We were in the junior college for the first 17 years, and then we added a couple bachelor programs, and that's why kids have a wonderful opportunity of completing the 2-year associate's degree and move on, or stay and play their 3rd and 4th year with a couple bachelor programs. But I just think it's been a process. It's been a long process to get people to understand, and people still don't know, but that's our job of producing caring individuals that are successful and go into this community and are professionals and do well.
Most exciting part of being a head coach, most difficult part?
It's not the winning. Most exciting part is being able to really connect and help that kid from here to here, or that team from here to here. Most difficult part is times have changed, and getting the kid to understand what's relevant, what's important when they don't see that. That's the most difficult part, I've got players that have connected with me, 15, 20 years down the road. They didn't realize that back then, but they realize it now, so that's the most difficult part.
And I think finding, and we've spoken on different things today, people need to be coached differently over time, and then some on it, you could have a team and you could have 10 different people within that team that need to be spoken to a different way, and then some other people may fit in other places. So how do you continue to be relevant in your mission and your vision and getting that across when society has changed, and within that society there have always been kids that can't be yelled at, or they need to be pulled aside, or they're okay with tough love? So the art of leadership within an ever-changing world, and within just different likes and dislikes with players, how do you stay relevant with that?
Continuously look to evolve. That is a very, very difficult question. I got players that place at some of their national teams, and I'll try to introduce this concept with our diamond system. And their first response is, what's that? We don't play that. You take a typical European kid and you bring them here in the American frantic style game, and their athleticism is not where it should be. We don't do that. Well, this is what we're going to do here, and this is going to be the benefits of it, So it's motivating, like you said it, you can't treat everybody the same. Some kids are going to be motivated that if you are going to motivate them in a hard way. You know? You're going to lose some kids that way. So you got to you got to see who your team is. You got to see how you're going to go about it. You know, you get like-minded captains that are going to help you. You just got to continue to show what you're trying to do and get them to understand. Man, we've a lot of times we've hit our sweet spot, so to speak, towards the end of the season. It takes that long to get a group of people together to understand one common goal, you know? And if you've been brought up one way, playing for 18, 19, 20-something years, and then you're going to come here and you're going to play a different way, or you're going to run 8 miles where they've never ran that in their lives, it's a daunting task, but they'll see the benefits, and then hopefully that will take them to the next level.
Your recruiting footprint seems to be everywhere.
Yeah.
So bring me on the trail with you in a typical recruiting season. Where are you? What nooks and crannies are you looking at?
Great. We, like I mentioned before, I probably make 3,000 contacts. If you're going to wait to that door, that there's a knock on the door, it's not going to happen. You got to go out there and create your own success. So I am circling the world for the best talent, and not just only talent, but the best chemistry that you think that's going to make up a team. So I'm all over, looking locally, regionally, nationally, internationally, and then you continue to make these networking contacts. And you might get some here, you might get some there. You might not get. I go to New York City. We always go there for these week-long recruiting trips. And one of the coaches down there says, "You're the only guy that keeps coming back here, year in and year out." I've probably gotten a few kids from him, but it's that commitment that you might not get it now. You're going to get it down the road. And they'll see that you treat those kids good, and they'll trust you, and they'll be in a good place. You know, I can't tell you how many times that's happened where a kid is not ready at that point, or something's going on in his life, but he'll come back.
Yeah. Well, and I think, you said a bunch of things that I agree with. You create your own success. You go out there and you believe that creating a bridge is going to pay off eventually. And when it does, it's exponential. But if people don't have the patience to build the bridge, to sustain the bridge, to upkeep the bridge, and to make sure they're still walking on that bridge. So I commend you for all these things that are not surprising me, and how they've turned into success. So with that being said, for Nick Dimitrievski and myself, Dan Tortora, Nick here with us is the athletic director of Bryant Stratton College in Syracuse and the men's soccer head coach for the Bobcats in this edition of Bobcat Buzz. We did this in a roundtable discussion. You've been great about answering my questions. So I want to be fair. I'm not going to put you on the hot seat. I'm just going to put me on the hot seat. You can ask me any 2 things in this edition of Bobcat Buzz.
Any 2 things.
Anything, yeah?
If you were a coach, what would be your style? Go ahead.
So I did coach soccer, and I coached it out of college. I was 22. I was 22 at the time. And I coached a U12 group. So I had 8 to 11-year-olds. And I would say that I was very basic coming into it because I had never played. And I think when you talk about the 4-4-2 and the diamond style and whatnot, I would love to study that and see how you do what you do in that kind of harassment style. I wish I knew you when I was 22, but I would say that I would probably, like you, study a lot. You know, I picked up a couple books and to try and see what works and what didn't. I tried to see my team for what it was. We didn't have a goalkeeper. And I had, I think, 3 different kids try. And one kid was just, never had been a goalie, very calm, very, whatever I asked him to do, he did, never talked back to me, and wanted so much. And by the end of the season, I knew I picked the right kid at a certain point, like within the season, and it just hits you in a way that by the end of the season, he took personally every ball that got by him. And he wasn't a goalie, but I helped him get there, and I don't know what credit I deserve along that road, but it was like you said, when you just know something,
Yep.
it was like, hey, this is a kid I can rely on the most. So if he's the kid I can rely on the most, and he's the one that shows me that he's maybe older than he needs to be, and he's the one that's willing to do whatever it is for the team, then that's the kid I'm going to try. And he just got very involved, very personal with it. So I don't know what my exact style would be. I know I'd want to harass, and I know that your way of going about things, while we're talking, I'm like, God, I just want to go to a practice and just watch. So like I said, if I could retroactively go back to myself and Back to the Future this thing, I'd hand my younger self a diagram of what you do and be like, hey, why don't you try this with the kids? But I loved it, and to be completely honest with you, if time somewhere in my life I can carve it out to do it, I would love to coach again. I'd love to have an opportunity to do that.
I think with all that, you got to trust your gut a lot. I remember when we won our first national championship, I had this gentleman from England would send me emails, not the most pleasant emails, about how I should train my team with the running. And I never responded. And I remember him saying something, these guys are not thoroughbreds. These guys are not race cars.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't win the national championship, and I sent him an email back. So you got to trust your gut, what you think is right, and then carry that out the best you can. If you knew now what you knew back then, what would you change? No, sorry. If you knew back then what you know now, what's something that you would change?
About coaching or just anything?
Something major that happened.
Okay, so if I knew back then what I know now, what would I change? It's 2 things. I wouldn't worry about dating. I really wouldn't. I'm a fan of Boy Meets World, and I wanted to find Mike Topanga in a sandbox when I was like 4 years old and get married to her and call it a day. And I think that life has given me so much comedy that people that know me and are around me know that my comedy is very off the cuff, always vibrantly in me. And a lot of it's come from dating some very interesting people. I would tell those women not to come to the shows when they come out, but if I went back in time, I would tell myself, don't stress about it. Like, everybody goes through crazy times, and don't force it. I would also tell myself that literally nobody's opinion in this world matters except for God's opinion of you and how you treat yourself. Because I allowed the emails and the tweets to really make me, and just comments people would say, to make me think less of myself. And when you realize over time, what I realize is when someone hates you, demonstrates that they have hate toward you or just doesn't like you, 99.999999% of the time, they don't know you. If they have met you, it was sparingly, and they've spent no quality time with you. So the people that rented loft apartments in my brain got evicted. If I could go back in time, I would have never opened the apartments. That's what I would say.
That's wonderful.
So with that being said, Nick Dimitrievski, myself, Dan Tortora, this has been an edition of Bobcat Buzz with a champion on champion on champion on champion on champion. Just like up and down this line. Very, very proud, not just for all of this, but more so for the person that gave me an opportunity to tell the story of Bryant Stratton. So thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York. Open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there. And of course, you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100. And also find them on myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying, in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
PB&J's Lunchbox, the food truck that you love finding all throughout Central and Upstate New York, now has a street-side cafe. So when you're craving their traditional favorites as well as their out-of-box amazing menu items, you can now head to 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Located just minutes from the highway, the Thruway, Destiny USA, and Onondaga Lake Parkway, PB&J's Lunchbox Street-Side Cafe is there for you Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner all throughout the day. Get breakfast for dinner, dinner for lunch, whatever you fancy, including their award-winning grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Find them at 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. PB&J's Lunchbox, where we love to know what's in your lunchbox. As a patient, what do we want? To be cared for, to be listened to, and to have someone walk us through the process on our path to victory. Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics does all of those things beautifully, with Dr. Mark Petropoli leading the team on 791 West Genesee Street in Skaneateles, New York, located minutes from beautiful Skaneateles Lake. Whatever your injury may be from head to toe, preventative care, rehab, physical therapy, laser therapy, and surgery are all available at Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, where they care about us, they listen to us, and they understand that everyone's path to victory is a little bit different. Let them help you on yours by calling 315-685-7544 to make your appointment today. That's 315-685-7544. And find out more information at victorysportsmedicine.com. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on wakeupcalldt.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt. Hope you're having yourselves a fantastic morning this morning and making the most of the day as always. And of course, we're happy to be here with you from inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. And of course, Cafe Kubal here with you in so many different locations, 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, as well as 324 West Water Street, 401 South Salina Street, and 3501 James Street in Syracuse, New York, inside of Golisano's Children's Hospital in downtown Syracuse, and of course on the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners in North Syracuse, where you have the opportunity to go through their drive-thru. So, want to thank you all, of course, for tuning in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on all of these wonderful outlets, youtube.com, facebook.com, and mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt, and of course on wakeupcalldt.com's homepage, and on facebook.com/livenowdt as well. With that being said, I have the opportunity once again to welcome back to the show somebody that I appreciate and respect so very much, and always looking forward to speak with this gentleman on the broadcast, and that is Mr. Mike Kitts Jr. It is the officiating corner, is what I'm calling it, to start off this week, as I have Mike Kitts Jr. and Mike Kitts Sr. both joining the broadcast this morning to speak on the wonderful world of officiating. So with that being said, Jr. gets the first crack before Dad, which I think is bragging rights for Mike now. So Mike, how are we doing today?
Good, Dan. Thanks for having me on the show. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I feel very bad for you that after officiating you went golfing in Florida. So how was that?
That was great. I kind of was able to parlay it, and I worked the CBI tournament, and then I spent a couple extra days and was able to play some golf with some buddies. So it worked out pretty good. It was good to see the sun. As you can see, we got hit pretty good here this morning.
Yeah. So very strange to see, have your girlfriend tell you, "Hey babe, it's snowing outside," and you're like, "Yeah, okay." and then you're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, it is snowing outside," when it's like 90 degrees down in Florida. So it's definitely been interesting, to say the least. But you had the opportunity to work the CBI College Basketball Invitational, and obviously the championship going to UNC Wilmington, and I had the opportunity to watch that game and get to take that in here from afar. So what did you take away from the CBI tournament, and just what you could say about officiating that event down in Daytona?
Yeah, I mean, it was a great event. It's an honor to get to work any sort of season basketball, so that was great. Yeah, I was able to work 4 games down there, and there were a lot of good teams that just missed either the NIT tournament or the NCAA tournament. And I was fortunate enough to work the UNC Wilmington semifinal game, and it was a great game, and a lot of young coaches there that I think you might see at some bigger programs down the road. And UNC Wilmington, they were able to beat a really good Middle Tennessee team in the finals, so it was a good event. The semis and finals were both on ESPN2, so those mid-majors, when they get an opportunity to play on TV like that, it's big for the programs, and I think they took advantage of it. It's good.
Here from Mike Kitts Jr., NCAA official here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Mike, for you to be a part of the CBI and to be a part of, obviously a very important place for teams to try and hoist a championship trophy, what were your biggest takeaways from that tournament specifically, and maybe some of the calls or maybe some of the things that made you kind of stop and think about the play again and whatnot? Do you have a moment or two that you can pull apart and say, these were in connection with the CBI tournament, these were some of the moments that we had to be careful as officials about?
Anytime the tournaments are winner go home, when it could be your last game, there's always a sort of intensity in the air in the arena. So games like that, you always want to be, you want to be right every game, but when it's a team's last game, especially the last 4 minutes of the game in a tight game, you try to adjudicate everything properly and kind of not get those plays that you might see on Twitter or Instagram or on ESPN where the refs kind of missed the game and could have cost the team a game. So fortunately, my games went pretty well. Actually, there was a lot of separation in the games I worked, so I wasn't really under the gun too much. But like I said, when it can be someone's last game, it's just, you can feel it's a different environment in the arena, and you could feel that at this tournament.
And when it is win or go home, do you feel, as an official, do you have any anxiety or any, kind of heightened feeling because of the fact that, every game you want to get it right. You want to do things to the best of your ability always. And in a situation like this where it is win or go home, and let's say it is a game that, comes to it's 1 point of separation, there's 2.6 seconds left on the clock, and, do you call this, if you saw that, is that a foul? Do you call it, put them on the line knowing that the other team could go up by a point and win this game at the charity stripe? I mean, I have seen games this season won at the line with, late foul calls and whatnot. So do you get an extra feeling of anxiety? Do you get a heightened sense of awareness? How do you respond to it as an official when it is win or go home?
Yeah, I would say you definitely get a heightened sense of awareness. This year I was also fortunate to work the Horizon Final where Wright State beat Northern Kentucky to go to the NCAA Tournament. And I don't know if you caught that game, but it came down to the last possessions too. But like I said, Northern Kentucky and Wright State traveled very well. So the arena was packed, and, it was one of those games that never really, especially down the stretch, got more than one or two possessions away from each other. So like I said, you can just feel that every time you make a decision, whether it's putting air in your whistle or, laying off a play, it has a consequence where, a team could get the separation they need to win the game. So like you said, I mean, at the end of the game, I don't think we really want to put a team at the line to win the game, but with all the video now, the tape doesn't lie. So if there's a foul and the tape can support it, we want to get those fouls because, like you said, those will be replayed on, on the highlight reels the next day, and we're the ones to blame for the loss. So fortunately, in my game in the Horizon, the teams kind of were able to decide it themselves, making shots. Kind of the last team to have the ball won, and that's kind of a dream for us. But like I said, it doesn't always go that way, and that's when we got to make a decision.
Speaking here with Mike Kitts, junior NCAA official, you brought up the Horizon, and I know you got to officiate inside of the Horizon League this season, and obviously for the tournament as well. What were some moments from the Horizon that stick out to you, and what can you say about the teams that you had within the Horizon League?
Yeah, the Horizon League is a really good league. Every league is in a great city, and they play in great arenas. And this year was especially good because I don't know if you looked at the standings, but come down the stretch, I think there were like 6 teams within first place. So there wasn't really a team that was going to get in the tournament, and you said they were going to win it. I think Cleveland State won the regular season, and they were a game up on maybe IPFW, and then Wright State and Northern Kentucky were right behind them. So the tournament was full of good games, and in the final it was it was Northern Kentucky and Wright State, and like you said, it came right down to the wire. And Cleveland State was a really good team too that played in the NIT. And they had a great coach who actually just got the Missouri job in Dennis Gates. So they have a lot of talent, a lot of good coaches, and it's a really exciting league to watch.
I have a picture of your dad speaking with John Calipari, and he's got his hand he's got his head in his hand at this time. He told me he remembers that moment. Have you had a head in your hand moment as an official yet?
Yeah, you probably get them. I mean, I think there's been a lot of them because there is a lot of dialogue with coaches, and there's a lot of times you see something that they're not seeing, and you're trying to explain to them potentially, why you had a foul or why you didn't, and they kind of see it the other way, and there's kind of no middle ground, and that's kind of the hands in your head moment where I'm seeing it one way, you're seeing another, and we're going to just have to agree to disagree. So those moments happen. I don't know. They probably happen a couple times a week, to be honest.
For you, Mike, when you have those moments and you're trying to express to a coach what you're seeing, I feel like technical fouls to coaches don't happen nearly as much anymore. What to you constitutes when it's time to tell a coach that's enough as an official, knowing that obviously 2 technical fouls would take anybody out of a game. When do you think it is appropriate to go to a coach and say, all right, we're not going here? What is the line in your opinion?
Everybody kind of has a different line, I think. Some people's fuse is shorter than others, but, my dad always taught me is when a referee or you're more focused on what a coach is saying to you than worrying about what's going on in the 4 lines is kind of when you need to address the coach and let them know, you've kind of hit this line on me, and, it's basically their warning, I'm fed up with, how you're treating me or what you're saying to me. And then if they keep going, that's kind of when you issue that technical foul. Like when I'm more concerned about what a coach is saying rather than getting plays right is when I kind of need to get over there and address, what he's saying or how he's acting.
Being an official, in the world that we live in today, right, anybody can heckle anybody. We have social media, it's easy. It's easy for people to be kind, and it's apparently easy for people to not be kind. And in the world of an official, since the beginning of officiating, we've been in this place where people pick on the stripes, right? People go after the pinstripes, and when that happens, it's happened so much. I mean, before social media, before there was instantaneous, you can write to somebody and go on Facebook and find that official and whatever. So we live in a world today where it is even more easy for somebody to get on an official. What is the art of officiating in the sense of how do you, as one of the, if not the most heckled people on the planet, before there was an opportunity to do that on social media, it happened at games, it happened in parking lots, it happened with, people watching you walk into a building, out of a building. If an official got a reputation and he walked into an arena, fans already knew who they were. They knew the play from 3 years ago. They're booing the official before the game even starts. That was before social media. How do you deal with the world of heckling, especially in today's world, where everyone has an opinion about every official every day?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the heckling that goes on in the arena when you're walking out, those, that's expected, and you kind of get used to it and kind of just, get deaf to it. But fortunately, I don't use Twitter. I know that's where a lot of the heckling goes on towards officials before and after games. But,
so where a lot of the magic happens, Mike, you can say.
Yeah, that's where a lot of the magic happens. And, I got friends who have Twitter that'll send you tweets, and, everybody's got, the ability to say what they want, when they want, to who they want. And it is a really tough, the guys working the tournament right now, they must be getting killed on there just based on all the views on these games. And it's tough. It's one of the reasons, not only through social media that there's a shortage of officials throughout the country at all. At the lower levels, I don't know if you saw on Syracuse.com the other day that they're having to move football games off Friday nights because they don't have the crews to have all the games on Friday nights. So to the people out there that, think it's easy and can rewind it on their TV 10 times, and they're so adamant about sports, then, they should try it themselves and kind of see how easy it really is. Because in a basketball game, there's about 210 possessions a game, and we're making about 20 decisions a possession. So you're going to miss plays. You just hope that they're not ones that cost team the game. So it is a hard job. There are a lot of voices out there, and I don't know what the solution is, to be honest. It's, people are complaining about it's getting too rough and we're missing plays, but, we also have to ref within the rules that are given to us. So it's tough. And like you said, Twitter is a tough place for a referee.
Yeah, and I think, obviously there's human error. Nobody's perfect, but in the run of play, you have to have a good eye. You have to have knowledge. You have, when you're an official, you have to have thick skin. You have to be able to shut out the noise. You have to essentially be calm in an environment that is anything but calm. You have to hear what's going on. You have to see what's going on. You have to have your stamina and your endurance and be, good physically to be able to run around, to be where it's what's going on. You have to work with a different crew potentially every other night where you're trying to tell them what you see and they tell you what they see. In the world of being an official, just to break it down, shutting out the noise, having thick skin, being smart, knowing the rules, being able to work well with others, having good physical condition, having a good eye, training yourself to know certain things. There's a million things you have to do just to get on the court. Speak to that side of it that people don't seem to understand, that in you physically having to be prepared, emotionally having to be prepared, mentally having to be prepared, there's all of these pieces that go into it that are far beyond just looking at a play that's happening. And in your world, like you alluded to, it's happening instantaneously, so fast in the moment, and you're not, as an official, able to go back and review I guess you could review every single play and the game would be 16 hours long, but you're not home, like you said, on your TiVo, playing it back, looking, zooming in, zooming out, seeing a different angle of it. You don't have all these views. You just have your eyes. So how do you put it all together to be physically fit, emotionally stable, mentally prepared, and then shut out the noise and see it instantaneously? There's a long list of criteria to being an official that I don't think people understand.
Yeah, like you said, you touched on a lot of it. One of the things we have to do is, we try to stay in shape because the game does move fast, and, you got to put in your time off the court a little bit to be able to keep up and keep your wind and have your legs feel ready to go each and every night. And, in terms of, even just getting to games is a lot for referees. I know, people just think you snap your fingers and we're there. No, like a lot of times we have 6 a.m. flights, we're hopping in a rental car, we're driving another couple hours and we're getting to a game and then we're doing it the next day. So, some of the toughest days, and they're almost harder to get to the game than it is actually to do the game because you're traveling all over the place. Up here we're dealing with weather, we're driving through snow. And then, like you said, when you get to the game, then you got to actually show up and do your job. And when all the other factors, like you said, noise, people yelling, tough plays, you kind of just try to build good habits through your training so that when, the arena gets loud or all the other factors might bother you, just rely on good habits to kick in when they need to, in terms of, end of the game or whatnot. And like you said, and then after the game, each league has a video, criteria. So I know I work in the Big Ten, the Horizon, the Mid-American. All our games get broken down and we have to review our plays. It's not like I kick a call and I screw a team that I don't care. Like, I get that play, I have to respond as to why I might have missed it. And, you learn from your mistakes. So it's not just show up, ref, and, take a shower and go to the next game. There are a lot of things that we do off the court that, help hold us accountable for what we're doing.
Yeah, and you put it right there, the travel and all the things that you have to do to get there. You're sometimes, you're in this city, then you're going to this city, like you said, when you're officiating a Big Ten game, then you got to go to a Horizon League, then you got to go to a MAC game. You can be all over the place, and you gotta be fully rested. You have to be healthy. You gotta be prepared. This isn't neurosurgery, but to put it in basketball terms, you really can't, as an official, to parallel that to neurosurgery, if you go an inch the wrong way as an official, you don't want to cut a nerve. You know what I mean? And so you have to be on your A game all the time. Let's say somebody, perfect example, your dad was in the hospital last year, right? And so, that weighs on you. That's in your brain. Maybe you're at the hospital till 3 o'clock in the morning, and then they're like, hey, we need you down in Daytona in 7 hours. So people don't understand that officials are human beings, And
Yeah.
I think we need to dispel the thought that officials have some. There's always the notion that officials are being paid off to help somebody, that you know, an official has a dog in the race, and some people to the nth degree will take that, where they'll tell you, like, if this guy is officiating a Syracuse game, we know we're going to lose, we're not going to get the calls. I mean, it's just, it's apparent that people don't treat officials as if they're actually human beings.
Yeah, and like you said, there's that. They do. They just look at us as like as a punching bag sometimes, or something to yell at. But and that's another reason why I think officials across the country in all sports are really finding a decline in recruiting new officials, especially at the lower levels where you don't really make all that much money. It's tough to get people to sign up to give up their Saturday and work a football or basketball game for less than $100 to get yelled at by a bunch of crazy parents when you could be home with your own family. So it is a problem that I don't know what the solution is, but I think over the next couple of years, I know, like I said, I mentioned in football, but you're going to see in a lot of sports that they're not going to be able to play games. That's where it's going.
And that side of it, why do you think it's finally weighing? Is it just a new generation of young people that don't want to deal with it? I mean, how I know you said you don't exactly know the solution, but why do you think there's a decline, not just in basketball, but there's a decline with officials, people wanting to officiate games? Where do you put the onus on when it comes to that?
I think the onus can fall on both sides. Like you said, I'm relatively younger, so people will say that parents are a lot crazier than they used to be, and that might be true with all the AU and parents thinking every one of their kids is going to go play college sports, and thinking all these kid games really matter. And like you said, you'll see videos on Instagram and all sorts of things about parents chasing out officials who are just giving up their weekend to help out kids. So, I think that is one issue. I think another issue is that maybe the local associations don't do a great job of recruiting new members. So, a little the onus might fall on them. And then I think the fee structure might be kind of outdated. I don't know how much it's raised over in the last 20 years, but like I said, if you're going to give up a Friday night to ref football, it takes every bit of 4 hours out of your Friday night. You probably got to get there a couple hours before the game. You got to do the game. You got to do a pregame, and these guys are making maybe $100, where you could be at home watching a football game on your TV with your family. So I think there's a lot of things that go into it, but it is a serious problem. And like I said, there's already areas across the United States that are having to cancel games because they don't have anybody qualified to do them. So what it really hurts is the kids.
Speaking here with Mike Kitts, Jr., NCAA official, here in our officiating corner today with Mike Kitts, Jr. and Sr. joining the broadcast on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. So, Mike, I mean, you are a young man. Why do you do it? I mean, why? You've seen your dad go through it. You've seen, I mean, your dad has over 4 decades of experience. He has had people say things about him that are good, that are bad. He has been this, that, and the third. He, to me, has always been a good man. And, and I'll talk to him and say, hey, I got this message from a coach. What the heck is this about? He's like, this guy doesn't even know, he doesn't even, I met him 10 years ago and I did one of his games, So what makes you want to be an official when you've obviously known firsthand just how illogical and irrational people can be toward officials?
Yeah, I mean, just him doing it for so long. I'm fortunate enough, one, to get the necessary training to deal with, certain situations, learn how to referee from someone who's actually done it. So, that's helped me get into it. 2, and I've been able to see, growing up with him doing it, it's kind of, brought a lot of good memories to me and my family. I've been able to travel with him. and, see a lot of cool places and meet a lot of cool people. So I get to see the good things about that officiating can do for people, that, it's a brotherhood. You can I've met a lot of my friends, through refereeing, and, the way, like you said, it's just one guy who said something. So the stuff that you may not like to hear, or the people who like to talk bad about you, he showed me kind of how to deal with it. And, it's not a big deal. It's just one guy who lost a game. And, whatever he thinks about me is what he can think, because, in a refereeing situation, you are going to upset some people, and they're going to hold a grudge, but you have decisions to make, and that's your job. And if losing one guy who might not like you ever again, it's part of the gig. If he's probably not a good guy anyways, if he's mad over one call 30 years ago.
So, I mean, you know firsthand, too, that in the reality of life, we talk about these games, and at the end of the day, it is just a game. And, it's something that we love to be around. It's something that we love to be a part of. But, your dad was one of the first people to come down with COVID in Onondaga County, go to the hospital. He was supposed to be on my show that week. Had sent me a message, said, "Hey, Dan, I'm going to have to reschedule. I'm not feeling that great." And that was all well and good. And Mike is always thorough, as you know. And I got in touch with him. I said, "Hey, Mike, so when can we reschedule?" No response. Try again. And then eventually, you and I conversed. Your dad was in the hospital for weeks. There was a feeling of concern, obviously, I'm sure, with your family. With me, I'm sitting here thinking, one of my closest friends may not be here, right? And I was genuinely concerned that I just wanted him to come home.
Yep.
When you go through something like that, I would imagine that even more so now, when someone's, can't see blah, on the court, you're probably like, yeah, you know what? There's bigger things that have happened in life. And, your family had to deal with the fact that the patriarch of your family was in a place where we didn't know. And so just to have your dad here is a blessing. I can imagine that if other things haven't already, that kind of taught you that what people think of you really is inconsequential to the people that matter to you, that you break bread with in your life, when you go through something like that with your dad.
Yeah, definitely. That was quite an experience. And like you said, he was sick for a couple weeks with COVID, and especially at that time, everybody didn't really know what was going on. It was, 2 years ago when it first broke out. So it was definitely a scary time, but it definitely, made me appreciate the moments I have, especially now. My dad does like to come to my games and take the car rides with me and do the trips, and it really makes me appreciate those moments to have him with me and share something we really love doing. And because, it does bring, it's not going to be around forever, and he won't always be able to make those car rides with me, so I appreciate him that much more now.
What is it, we talk about the fact that it's so rare that a coach will be able to coach their kids, right? And at the high level, right? So Buddy Boeheim, Jimmy Boeheim, being with Jim Boeheim at SU. It's also extremely rare that an official will get to officiate and be connected to the game with their kids. Mm-hmm. So what's it like to have Dad have 4 decades of experience and still be a coordinator of men's basketball officiating, going around the country, being, the eyes and ears for J.D. Collins and helping him make decisions on officials at the highest level, to see how high your dad has come, and to be literally one of the people that the head of officiating in the country trusts in J.D. Collins, to be the son of Mike Kitts Sr., and to be able to share this world with him. The rarity of coach and player, the rarity of official and son or daughter getting to do this. What does that mean to you, that you get to take these car rides, you get to have this connection, and that, you and your father have the same profession, and that he is still very much a part of that profession? Because that in and of itself, I would have to go back in history and look, but it's a rarity to have an official and their child actually get to do this thing together.
Yeah, I mean, it's really a blessing. Like I said, we get to share something we both love doing, and it's something we bond over. So, I'm very fortunate that that's something we get to do together. But with that comes, I do have big shoes to fill, and there is sometimes an added pressure to kind of live up to how good he was as an official. And but over the past couple of years, doing it now for about 10 years, I've kind of come, I'm more comfortable in my own shoes and being official myself, of kind of separate of my dad. But, with that, people will always say things like, I only got here because of my dad. And that used to bother me, but it's another thing that I've gotten used to and kind of let my work speak for myself, because if I wasn't meant to be out there, you would hear about, me screwing up games or, messing up calls. And, there's a lot of video out there. And if my work didn't speak for itself, then, you would get fired. So, like I said, I've gotten more comfortable doing it. It's a bond we share, and, I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Speaking here with Mike Kitts Jr. Mike, how did you get over people saying, you're just here because of your father?
Like I said, you just you get more comfortable with the habits and the games, and you start to realize, like, I should be out here. I'm meant to be out here. I've worked in a couple leagues long enough where I have gained respect from the coaches, and I do have a rapport with the coaches' games that I work, and they seem to buy into the way I do things, and I get a feeling of trust that they trust me on their games. So it kind of just, years of experience and trust in what you're doing and things of that nature. So, just over years kind of got more confident in my abilities.
Why is the Kitts blood so thick? I mean, why do you guys have such thick skin? To have not one but two officials, you arguably have to have the thickest skin on the planet. So how did you get your skin to essentially be like leather, I guess?
I don't know. I just, it takes a lot to get under my skin. There's not a whole lot that bothers me, but I don't know. I guess it was just, growing up playing sports, my dad was, always helped coach, and, if I had, he was tough on me if I had bad games, or, he was, yelling at me from the stands when I was playing Little League and high school baseball. And like I said, it used to bother me when I was a kid, but as I got older, and, I was able to brush off my dad, and he was tough on me, and no fan's been as tough as my dad was. So it would take a lot for, to people to bother me, because he was quite tough when I was younger.
See, I mean, I think everything's relative, right? Like, I've had so many interesting ex-girlfriends that I don't think there's any heckler that could outdo them. So I'm like, well, you didn't try to murder me in the middle of the night, so I think we're okay. But here with Mike Kitts Jr. in our officiating corner on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. In that same respect, how many times a year does your dad tell you missed a call?
Like I said, I'm getting better, so it's less and less every year. But there's always a player or two from each game that he says you might want to take a look at, or maybe try this differently. And he's better with me officiating than he was when I was playing sports, because he did it, and he realizes how tough it is out there, and you're gonna miss a play, you're gonna do something wrong every now and then. You can't ref a perfect game. So there's every game he'll tell me to look at a play. I might agree with him, I might not agree with him, but I'm really fortunate to have someone watch almost all my games, and I get feedback within a couple hours, and I can really try to improve on the things he says I need to get better at. So there's always a player or two from each game.
What do you love about it, Mike? I mean, we talked about the fact that there's a need for officials out there. So if you could speak to what you appreciate, what you love, what makes you do it, Why do you love being an official? What is it about doing this job that you enjoy and get excited to come to work for?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that, you only hear the bad things, but a lot of the good things are, one, I mean, you're going to meet a lot of good guys. The guys that get in it are, some of my best friends. There's some people that I talk to, every day. So you're going to meet a good group of guys. Two, it's almost like, like I don't want to play sports anymore. I hurt my knee playing rec basketball, but you almost get the feeling of, you're suiting up to play a game because it's competitive. You want to get the plays right. You want to go out there and have a good game, and you almost feel like you're a player and you train like a player. And there's a sense of competitiveness that I want to go out there and ref a perfect game. Even though there's really no such thing, you kind of always strive for it. And, it kind of gets those competitive juices flowing with me. And, like you said, it can be good money for no matter what level you do, like if you got the time on the weekends to referee hoops or referee anything, it's good side money. I know that's how I got going in college. A lot of my friends, instead of, working at a restaurant or working at a bar and, they're working, I would work on the weekends. So I'd have the money to go out with my friends. And that's kind of what got my dad started with me. He got sick of peeling off 20s. So he said, go ref basketball. And, it's been quite a blessing. I've met a lot of good people, and there are a lot of benefits to get into refereeing. It's just hard to get over that first year when you're very uncomfortable out there. You don't know the rules. You don't know what you're doing. And on top of that, you got people yelling at you for something you're just trying to get started at. So if you can get through that first year, I think it gets better after that.
How many people do you think would succeed at their current jobs if they had people screaming at them in their office?
I don't know how many good people would be good at if a surgeon was getting yelled at the whole time in an operating room. I don't know how good he would be. So it is tough. You have the job at hand, but you also have people screaming in your ear telling you stink all the time is not an ideal working condition. But
you find a way to do it, find a way, obviously, like you said, you meet good people, you get to enjoy it. How fast is it happening in front of you? And have you worked to master the art of slowing the game down? Like when plays are so instant. I mean, I'm watching the plays and I'm there on press row, and I mean, it's quick. And sometimes it's, the Buddy Boeheim incident, right? It happens fast. I was right there. I didn't see what Buddy had done. I just saw Wyatt, bowled over, and then laying down on the ground. And I'm like, what the heck happened to this kid? So, how quick is it going? And does it ever slow down in your viewfinder, so to speak? Like, can you slow the game down?
Yeah, it goes very fast out there. These plays happen in a split second. Like you said, they do happen very quickly, and you gotta make a decision right then and there, because then you're on to the next play and you're running the other way. So, but some things I do, I focus on my breathing. I self-talk myself out there. I try to, what referees say is, you have a patient whistle. So we try to see plays start, develop, and finish before we can make a decision, because if you anticipate plays, as you know, a lot of times you're going to be wrong. So if you can, train your eyes and train your breathing to let plays start, develop, and finish, we have a lot better chance of being accurate on our play assessment. And like I said earlier, you kind of just rely on habit. So if, it's repetition. The more plays you see, the more games you do, the more video you watch, your eyes are going to get trained to see plays, because a lot of the plays are, they happen in every game. It's just the way the game is. Block charge plays, they're very similar. Out of bounds plays, they're very similar. Shooting foul plays, they repeat themselves. So if your eyes are trained to see plays, you have a better chance of, getting plays right.
And as far as to go to a play like that with Buddy Boeheim, I'm sure, this is one of the biggest ones that was talked about officiating wise this year. How do you assess that? It happened. It wasn't reviewed. it wasn't considered a flagrant 1 or 2 because the officials didn't even bother to go to the tape and look at it. And then after the fact, it was called a flagrant act by the Atlantic Coast Conference, and he was suspended. How do you view, first and foremost, what do you think about the action itself? And then 2, how it was handled, just what your take is on that. That typically if it's a flagrant 2, you can suspend somebody or kick them out of the game. But in this case, it was a flagrant foul that was never called, that was punished after it wasn't punished in the actual game.
Yeah, it's a play that, if you look at it just from happening on the court from an official's eyes, I could see because it was a made basket, I believe, and as soon as the ball's dead when that happens, and it's kind of officials, we kind of let our guard down for just a second because you're going to go up the floor, and I could see how none of the officials saw it in real time, just because it's kind of a dead area in the court. People are running the other way, but as soon as the kid from Florida State went down and you killed play, I'm very shocked that they just, because one, a lot of times when we get over to the monitor, the kid laying on the ground will be like, "Hey ref," he'll let you know that something fishy might have happened, and it'll get us over to the monitor. But also in instances like that, if the kid's laying on the ground and you didn't see what happened, we just go anyways just to make sure nothing happened. So when that occurred, I'm surprised. I know I make mistakes. Everybody, it happens, but I am a little surprised that the referees during that dead period did not go adjudicated at the monitor, because I think if they saw it, they would have at least, it warranted a flagrant 2 in game, because it was a punch and everything by the rule, flagrant, unnecessary, excessive. It fits all the criteria for a flagrant 2. But since they did miss it, they did have to go to the conference office because the video just kind of spread like wildfire. As you saw, like all over social media, it was crazy. And I don't know, the conference office has to do something, in my opinion, because if they see the video, they see a punch was thrown. What do you do the next time a punch is thrown? You can't say, the guy could always be like, well, Buddy Boeheim didn't get suspended, why should I? It's kind of a slippery slope. So it was very unfortunate for Buddy, because I know he's a great kid, and you felt terrible that's the way he was going to end his career. But I can see why the ACC did something like that, because the next time it happens, you can always point to that and be like, it was handled differently, and it's a tough spot to be in.
Yeah, and it's just the retroactive side of it, right? If there was no social media, would Buddy have been suspended, I guess is the question.
I doubt it, because one camera angle picked it up, and then one person posted the video, and then it got, Jay Bilas talking about it, and once he gets on something, the whole college basketball community's on it, and there's, the cat's out of the bag. So I don't, with social media, without it, I don't even know if anybody, it might have been shown on a replay, but no one would have said anything about it, and I don't think the ACC would have had the need to get involved with that situation. But so many eyes were on that play that I think they felt they had to do something.
Yeah, and that's, again, kind of coming full circle, that's the world of social media today. We do have a message that came in from a one Miss Angela Principato Kitts, who said hi to you. So
my mom's watching.
So
hi, Mom.
We talk a lot about Dad, and Dad has thick skin, and has been able to take on the world here, and to be able to be successful doing what he loves and shutting out the noise. What can you say about the strength of your mom and just what Angela has brought to the table and what she's taught you?
Yeah, my mom's, also very important in my upbringing. She's taught me good values. She's taught me how to be a good man, and she's very supportive of what I do, and she's always cheering for me and wants me to succeed. So I love my mom, and I can't thank her enough for teaching me teaching me all she's taught, and it's been good.
Who's scarier to deal with, mom or dad?
They're about equally. And when you, depending on what you're doing wrong, if you strike a nerve that upsets them, they're pretty tough in their own right.
Between you and Sarah, who's the better kid?
That's up for debate, but Sarah's doing awesome right now. She's in her residency in Boston, and she works really hard at what she does, and we're all really proud of her, so I got to give her some credit.
That coming from Mike Kitts Jr. Mike, before I let you go, a play or two that sticks out to you. I know you cover, and either from something you saw as on the court itself, or something that you just saw in general. I know that you've had the Horizon, the MAC, the Ivy, the Summit, and the Patriot this season, and gotten to do some conference tournaments within that. Of something that you either saw firsthand as an official on the court, or if there's a player or two you saw in the NCAA tournament that maybe sticks out to you the most as one of those plays that needs to be utilized and maybe a teachable lesson moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, they happen to me all throughout the season, and I think they get magnified in the NCAA tournament is out of bounds plays. You might not think of them as a big, tough play to get, but when there's 3-4 hands going for a loose ball and it gets squirted out of bounds, it's very hard to pick up who touched the ball last. And it's a play that you see a lot in the NCAA tournament as to plays they might have missed or got correctly, or they're at the monitor for, which feels like 30 minutes over there trying to figure out who touched it last. But that is a tough play for our eyes to see because the tips and the hands, it happens so quick. And it's a play you see them at the monitor a lot at the end of the game trying to get right. And fortunately on the CBS broadcast in the NCAA tournament, they get probably 12 angles over there, and a lot of times they're able to get the proper angle to get it right. But during your basic regular season game and some of these mid-majors, they might have 2 angles over there. So a lot of times you have to stick with the call you got on the court because the angle just doesn't support anything else. So those out of bounds plays are tough, and I know they mean a lot because possessions are huge at the end of the game.
How many times have you witnessed a player not know when they can and cannot run on the baseline during an out of bounds play?
It happens probably, you hear about it happening a couple times a year, but one of our jobs to these players is, at least we're taught, and we try to do as many times as we can remember, that when we administer that ball, we're very clear as to pointing to the floor as it's a spot throw in, or letting them know they can run after a made basket. So because that's another possession lost, and if we can kind of do some preventative officiating to let the kid know what he can and can't do, you can but sometimes in the heat of, you'll tell a kid, I've told a kid spot throwing, and then you'll give him the ball and start your 5-second count. You'll look down the line and he ran 5 steps, and you'd be like, dude, I just told you. But those kids are thinking a lot of things too. So, but we do our best to prevent those situations.
Coming here from Mike Kitts Jr. Mike, as always, I appreciate it. I love that. And one, kind of final note here before we have Mike Kitts Sr. on the broadcast, and that is to just share. I know we talked about it, why you do what you do, but if there's somebody out there considering being an official, or even somebody that's not, someone that's listening right now, what would you say to them about why they should consider giving officiating an opportunity, knowing that you need officials and you need people out there in the pool to be able to choose from? What would you say to somebody about why they should consider it?
Yeah, I think, it could resonate with a lot of people who, kids, finishing up their college athletics and or high school, and their kind of playing career is coming to an end. It's a great way to stay involved in the game. It's a great way to meet new people, And, you know, it's like I said, it gives me that feeling, at least, that I'm still, you know, a participant in athletics. And, you know, it has that competitive feel. You know, just like anything, the beginning's going to be a bumpy road, you know, learning the rules and all the hand mechanics and everything. But once you can get past that and almost be, you know, a bookworm in terms of, you know, you really wanting to learn it. When you get comfortable with all those other things, it can be a lot of fun to get out there and participate in the sport that you like. So that's kind of some advice I would give.
And also get you front row seats at some really amazing games as well. So
yeah.
It's a very special things you get to see, and in a way that you can remember in such a different place of being on the court for something. So I'm sure a game-winning shot, you know, a crucial turnover or steal and whatnot. I mean, you being able to see that in the run of play has got to be incredible. I mean, I can only imagine what a last-second heave looks like to an official, you know.
Yeah, it gets your heart pumping. It really does. There's definitely adrenaline rush that comes with it.
So that coming from Mike Kitts Jr. Mike, I don't want to keep you from your opportunity to golf again. So I look forward to talking with you soon, and hopefully you and I get to see each other before we bump into each other at a local diner near you. So always be good, and thank you for everything that you do and the thick skin that you have, and just the fact that you've been willing to go out there and do a job that is often thankless. So I appreciate it. I want to thank you for it, and more than anything else, I thank you for just, you know, the type of human being you are and how you've always been to me. So it means a lot.
Great, Dan. I appreciate you too, and thanks for having me on the show. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I look forward to talking with you soon, and I'll make sure to put Dad on the hot seat for you.
Sounds good.
All right, take care.
All right, bye.
See you. That coming from Mike Kitts Jr. Mr. Mike Kitts Sr. joins the broadcast next after this fast break on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. From inside of the Cafe Kubal studios, you are watching and listening to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on Facebook.com, YouTube.com, and MixLR.com, all /Wake Up Call DT. Look forward to following into this conversation in the Officiating Corner, our continuation of what we've seen from this season. We talk NIT, CBI, NCAA with Mike Kitts Sr. right after this fast break on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora from inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville beats. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you.
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
I'm George Townsend of Honda City with some good advice when buying a new car. The true cost of owning a new car is determined by the appraised value when you trade it. No vehicle appraises higher than a Honda. Next, look for low APRs and deep discounts. You also want low maintenance costs and great fuel economy. That's why my advice to you is to buy a new Honda. Looking pre-owned, visit our Honda Certified Used Car Center. Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard, Liverpool, or HondaCity-CNY.com.
It would be a pity if you don't shop at Honda City.
Our corporate purpose at Chick-fil-A is to glorify God by being faithful stewards of all that's entrusted to us and to positively influence all those who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. And what became increasingly clear from our success in Cicero is that people love Chick-fil-A. And also I think we recognized that, we had a great opportunity to grow the brand and grow our platform. I felt incredibly grateful when I was selected to be a Chick-fil-A operator. I think what it's meant for me, what I've come to realize on a very deep level is that this is a calling for me. It's not a career. It's not a job. The Lord called me to be a Chick-fil-A operator and to use these restaurants to glorify Him and to positively influence other people. I'm blessed. I'm very blessed.
Head to Chick-fil-A Clay on 3974 State Route 31 in Liverpool, New York. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. Hope you're having yourselves a tremendous day today. And of course, Cafe Kubal, you can fill your cup up right in central and upstate New York on 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, as well as on 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, and 401 South Salina Street, all inside of Syracuse, New York, inside of Golisano's Children's Hospital in downtown Syracuse, and on the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners in North Syracuse for the drive-through location. Cafe Kubal, my choice for all the chais that I get. And of course, you can go and get your cup of coffee, your chocolate chip banana bread, your sandwiches, and everything they have to offer by supporting local today. You can also get mugs and travel cups, t-shirts, and all great stuff at Cafe Kubal. So make sure you head out there today, support local, and support some fantastic flavors. As always, we appreciate you being here with us Monday through Friday from 9 to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on YouTube, Facebook, and MixLR, all / Wake Up Call DT, and of course on Facebook.com / LiveNowDT, and on WakeUpCallDT.com's homepage. So, with that being said, I'm calling this the Officiating Corner this morning, and in this corner on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, we featured junior, and now we have senior when it comes to Mike Kitts. Very happy to have Kitsy back on the show with us today. So with that being said, let's bring him in. Mike, how you doing?
Good, Dan. Thanks for having me. I hope my son did a good job before me, but I can do as good as he did.
Yeah, no, he definitely did well. I asked him how many times a season you tell him that he got a call wrong. So what would be your response to that?
I got to be a little bit harder on him than the other guys because of who he is, and my expectations and everybody else's expectations of him are a lot higher. So he's got to stay out of controversy and do a good job and work that extra harder, because a lot of people saying like Kitts gets games because his dad gives him games, but I'm not the only supervisor he works for. He works for 4 or 5 other guys. So it's just a situation where he's got to work that much harder. And people think he's got it easier, but he's got a lot tougher with me hanging around.
And how do you handle that when you hear, it's kind of ironic that I get to see this connected to Central New York in 2 different ways. So not only happening, but connecting to my hometown and to 2 families I know. Buddy and Jimmy, you're only on the team because of your dad. In Mike Kitts Jr.'s case, you're only an official because of your dad. How have you dealt with when people talk about nepotism and it's unfair and you can't do this and this, that, and the other? I mean, how have you dealt with that as a family? That, you know, I mean, it's something that Buddy and I talk about all the time with him playing at Syracuse for the last, you know, all the years that he's been there, really. And you know, in the same case with Mike, how do you deal with that?
You know, it's something that that when he got into officiating, which, you know, he got into kind of by accident. He was working as an internship at the Big Ten office when I was still refereeing. And he was breaking down films of games that I was officiating as well as the other Big Ten referees. And he kept looking at the films and saying, geez, Dad, I mean, you guys screw up enough. I think I can do this, you know? So I got him involved in a pro summer league out in Chicago when he was about 23 or 24. And it kind of took off from there. And I got a couple referees who refereed for me in the Horizon League that kind of took him underneath their wing out there. And kind of put them in the right direction. And I'm very grateful for those guys that helped them out there, because I wasn't out there. But, you know, to handle a situation with Mike, it's just something we deal with. It's nothing different. You know, Pat Driscoll has a young son that referees also. He does Division III for me. I got 43 Division III schools. And, you know, Pat has the same situation with me that I have with Mike. And, you know, even though Pat's at a Division III level, there's a lot of things that he has to deal with in regards to his son officiating. So it's really getting more and more. There's a lot of college officials, or even I referee with, that have their sons involved in officiating now. Eddie Corbett, I did a lot of Big East games with him. His son's refereeing now. And Ramey Stein's his son. So there's a lot of referees' sons involved in this. And it's something that you just tell them to stay out of controversy, keep your mouth shut, listen to what people got to say, and do a good job, and you'll advance. So, but sometimes you got to be patient in this business of refereeing. I know Mike wants it more really quick, and he's just got to be a little bit more patient.
You know, and like you said, and I was talking to Mike about this, I was like, I didn't know a lot of families that have that, but you're speaking to the fact that more and more we're seeing officials, kids go out there and officiate. What do you like about the fact that, you know, it is a rarity to see a Division I coach get to coach, you know, their kids, and, you know, we got to see that with Jim and Jimmy and Buddy, and it's been rare for me to see an official and then have their kid out there as an official. But as you see this happening more and you shed some light to that, you know, what can you say about the fact that we're seeing a, you know, generation to generation, that not only does a family have an official within their family, but that, you know, the child of that official says, you know what, this is something that I'd like to continue on and keep going. I mean, what do you think about that world, which to me is very seldom, but like you said, you're starting to see it more?
Yeah, it's coming around more. I see it a lot with the younger referees getting involved in it. There's, you know, I always tell everybody it's the best part-time job in America, refereeing basketball for 5 months, especially if you get to the Division I level. And, you know, it's a pretty good way of making a living, to be honest with you. You know, I worked for the city for almost 20 years, and then I got to a point where I was making more money refereeing for 5 months than I was working 12 months for the city, and that's why I just refereed the last 19, 20 years just officiating for the 5 months. But, you know, I can see how people get involved in it. You know, the guys you see all the time on TV, you know, the Jeff Andersons and Ron Groove and those guys, they're doing 5-6 games a week, Division I. The money that they make is pretty really well. And, you know, and it's good for them. You know, people ask me, do I miss officiating? I kind of don't miss it because I kind of live through Mike, and I can get my fix, you know, watching him and doing the things that he's doing, that he does well. He's got a better disposition than I had when I was refereeing. He's more even keel. I was kind of up and down, and I had a little temper. My daughter's got my temper, and Mike's got his mother's temper. So, but in this day and age, that's the way they want your referee. He's perfectly suited for what they want out of an official, and even the way he looks. I mean, that's the way they want. They want that look, you know, this 6'2", 6'3", looks apart, and that's perception is a big thing with officiating.
And you said he's got a different temperament. I asked him, when to blow the whistle on a technical and when to have enough and this and that. And you and I had talked about it a week or so ago. Mike just said to me that he looks at it as when you're focused more on what a coach is saying to you than you are on the game itself, that's where you have to pull him aside and say that's enough. You said he's got a different temperament than you, but what do you think about, his reaction to you call a technical foul when you become more concerned as an official of what a coach is saying to you as opposed to the game?
Yeah, I've always said that. I've said it to numerous officials, is that if you're more worried about what the coach is saying to you rather than officiating the game, you have to address them. He's taking your concentration away. You got to be out there and into the game. And when that happens, even when I was refereeing, I would go, Coach, I've had enough. You've refereed way too much. You got to get back to coaching. And when I said that the first time, and if he refed another play, I technical foul, because I warned him. The onus is on him. And Mike goes about the business the same way. And every official is different how they react to a particular coach. I could be different, maybe a little short-sighted on that and say, I've had enough of this. I'm going to address him. Another referee might say, he's not that bad. So it all depends on how you feel that particular time during the game, that when you say something to a coach and say, address him and say that's enough.
How do you, let's say you dealt with a coach in February, right? And the coach in February was getting personal, screaming at you, you give him a technical. How do you see that coach at the conference tournament less than a month later and not carry what happened before?
I never had a problem with just putting it aside and letting it go. I mean, it was a situation that happened in a 40-minute game or a 2-hour game. And, if you can't put that aside and start out fresh with a clean slate, you're only going to hurt the kids. I mean, you can't have a personal vendetta against somebody. It's just that's the wrong approach to take in this profession we're in, especially at this level, that you got to have a clean slate every time you go into that. Human nature, maybe, in the back of your mind, you're thinking something, but when you put it forth and it's for the kids, you just got to do what's right for the game and go in there with a clean slate and do a good job again.
Do you feel like it's ever, as a coordinator of men's basketball officiating for multiple conferences, speaking here with Mike Kitt Sr., do you ever feel that you either personally or with an official have had to say, hey, you gotta let this go? Like if there was a big incident, if the coach got just really ridiculous, maybe the coach calls you after the game or follows you out to your car or just said something on the court. When it gets really uncomfortable, have you had to deal with something where it is difficult to let that moment go and go on to the next game?
I'll tell you a story. Years ago, I had the Midwest final between Rhode Island and Stanford. At the time, Herrick was coaching Rhode Island and Mike Montgomery was coaching Stanford. Rhode Island was up 9 with like 54 seconds left and blew the game. And I was in a situation where I probably should have thrown Jim Herrick out with like 20 seconds left in the game, just for something he said. And I got to the locker room and I felt awful about me not throwing him out. I said to myself, that will never happen to me again. I don't care how much time's left. If somebody gets personal with me, I'm going to get rid of him. And that situation, we go fast forward, and now Jim Herrick's coaching Georgia, and I got a game at South Carolina. And there's a luncheon that afternoon before the game. And a question was asked by a reporter to Jim Herrick about the Final Four of Rhode Island. His comment to the reporter was, if it wasn't for a referee from Syracuse who still has his whistle in his belly today, we would have won that game, meaning me, okay? Yeah. Now, I knew an assistant coach of South Carolina, and he kind of called me and told me what happened at the luncheon, okay? And it was a perfect example that I didn't take it personal. I mean, I went out and did my job, but to start the game, I was supposed to shake hands with the coach, and I go over and I give him a dead fish. I don't even look at him. And he's trying to ask me questions. I wouldn't answer him. So we get to a 2-minute timeout, and he said, Mike, yeah, we got a problem here tonight? You're not talking to me. I said, Coach, that whistle in my belly still tastes good today. Now he's looking at me like, how did I find out that he said that, okay?
Yeah.
And he did not say a word to me the rest of the game. And that's the last time I had him in a game. But that's a situation where I'm involved. I know what he said. I'm not going to take care of my kids. I'm a professional. I got a job to do. But that was one situation where a guy makes a comment like that about me, not saying my name, but saying where I live. And he's up by 9 points at 54 seconds and blows the game, not me.
And that's the thing, Mike, is that, when you have officiated and been connected to it for as long as you have, over 4 decades when it comes to being an official and then a coordinator of officiating itself, when you're overseeing officials for a conference, you are bound to have somebody not like one of your calls every year, let alone, you look at 40 plus years of what that can be. So what is your advice to an official out there today, whether it's year 1 or it's year 25? They live in a world, and I was talking to Mike Jr. about this, is that, we live in a world here where you, as an official, since the beginning of officiating, officials have always been critiqued. They've always been yelled at, disagreed with. But in the world of social media and constant conversation, and like you said, some of the talking heads that want to talk about it over and over and over and over and over. And with the Buddy Boeheim thing, one of the media people that wouldn't shut up about it was a guy who told somebody, you need to leave it alone. And I was like, well, you need to leave it alone. So, in the world we live in today, nobody shuts up about officials. It's instantaneous. It's on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever. Everybody's watching the play, rewinding, watching it. What's your advice to an official today, knowing that you took criticism when there was no social media? So how do you and really no internet? So how would you tell an official to deal with today's world where somebody could bring up a call that they made a year and a half ago because they still have the film on their phone?
I've been people have been sending me articles about the officiating in the NCAA tournament, and I'm saying, geez, how is a referee at this time with all the social media and people playing replay after replay and showing how the referees got to play wrong? But when they go back and you look at it, probably 95% of the time they're getting it right and they're picking. In an average basketball game, there's 140 possessions between two teams. So that's 140 times I have to make a decision whether is it a foul, is it a legal defender, is it an illegal defender, is it a block charge. These people can sit there, Jay Billis, and replay these things and say, well, how can this guy referee? He had controversy in this game. Back when Hank Nichols was assigned the NCAA tournament, if you had any kind of controversy in your games, you were done. But with today's video, nobody misses anything. It's like there was a game, the Arkansas-Gonzaga game, where the kid stepped out of bounds on the baseline, and the guy missed it, and they scored on that play. And then the 4th and 5th foul on the Holgram kid, which was really, really weak for college basketball. And they played those over and talked about that game. They talked about the Baylor-North Carolina game after the kid got thrown out for the F2. So every time we turn around, they're criticizing the officials. They never say anything good about it. Even during the season when I'm assigned in Division III games and Division I games, I really, really don't get too many phone calls. It says, geez, Mike, the guys did a good job. Everybody associates bad refereeing with a loss. Nobody associates. And I said to a coach this year, is there any way possible that if you lost the game, the referees did a good job? Does that ever happen anymore? And it's ironic how it comes around that, you might have a team that's lost 4 times with Mike Kitts. And all of a sudden they think, well, we can't win Mike. It's not me. They can't win Mike Kitts. It's they're not playing well to win, but they don't associate with that. This day and age, they got to blame somebody, and it's got to be the referees.
Well, and that's the thing is, how many times have you looked at a film over and over and over again, and the ref got the call right in maybe one of the most controversial calls?
Yeah, you get them right. They never want to tell you, but if you get them right, they want to tell you if you get them wrong. It's just, And there's so many possessions in the game. It's so hard. These games are so hard to referee. And it's getting harder and harder, and under the microscope more and more now with the video and people playing these replays back, and they're putting them all over social media. I mean, it's just, I just told Mike, I go, Mike, you have a hard job going forward. All you referees have a very hard job going forward. They're relentless trying to find mistakes you made.
Well, and for you, I mean, has there been a moment or two that you can pinpoint where one of the most controversial, not controversial, but one of the calls that was most attacked was actually the right call?
I can remember years ago, the last game of the season, Syracuse played Villanova at the Dome, and Villanova killed them, okay? So I go to the Big East tournament. It's going to be my second or third Big East tournament. And I said, there's no way I'll get Syracuse in this game. And they're playing Villanova, okay? And I go to the Garden, get Syracuse. They win by a point. And I'm the lead official, and the Syracuse kid, I can't remember who it was, makes an unbelievable block shot, against Villanova. Villanova, if he makes a shot, he's going to win. They're going to win the game. And I don't know why I always remember that, but I did a few Syracuse games, mostly on the road when I was in the Big East. I had them at BC. I think I had them at Providence, but it just got to the point where there were so many games out there that I really didn't need games with Syracuse involved, especially league games. That it's just, you're in a no-win situation in that situation. That you're reffing a Syracuse game, if they gave me the game, I did it. So that was the way it was. But I just remember that the Villanova Syracuse game at the Garden years ago.
Mike, you bring, speaking here, Mike Hitz, senior, longtime NCAA official and current coordinator of men's basketball officiating for numerous conferences and schools. The Garden, which I just got to go back to for the first time in like 9 years, and there's something different about it. I mean, it is, when you sit down and you look up at the ceiling and you take a deep breath in the Garden, I mean, it is like no other. What is it like officiating in the Garden, number one? And number two, just what you could say about the Big East. It's gone through change, but now the majority of the Big East, basketball-wise, is intact, with the UConns and the St. John's and the Villanovas and Seton Halls and Georgetowns and so on and so forth. I mean, this is a Big East that looks like the Big East again. So without Syracuse and like Pitt, that's where we're at a little bit of a loss here. But what can you say about officiating in the Garden? Is there anywhere like it? And then secondly, just what your thoughts are on the evolution of the Big East and how it had to go through a lot of change to get to where it is today.
Yeah, people ask me my favorite place to referee off campus has always been Madison Square Garden. Just the atmosphere there. I think I did 4 or 5 Big East finals. And, the best place off campus or on campus would be Duke at Cameron. Those are my, 2 favorite places I tell people. But the Garden, it's just an unbelievable atmosphere there when the Big East was the Big East. And when I say the Big East, with Hewing and all those guys playing, and Chris Mullen and McNamara and all those. I remember one year I was supposed to do the Big East final, but McNamara had those 2 games where he couldn't miss. And then Syracuse got in the final, so, I didn't do the final that year because Syracuse was in it. That was the time when Syracuse, I didn't do Syracuse games, and it wouldn't have been, I haven't had them in a couple of years. It would have been not a good situation to have them in the final. And I can't even remember if they won it, but they were in the final because McNamara got hot. I'm sure you remember that year.
Yeah.
And the evolution of the Big East. I was in the Big East 28 years. I'm the only referee to quit the Big East after 28 years. I had a situation in a Louisville, West Virginia game at West Virginia with Patino and Huggins that I didn't think the league handled the situation well. And I had done the Big East tournament for like 18, 20 years, and I got a letter in the mail about 3 or 4 days after that game, and Patino lost. And, Rick, that's another story, but that I failure to follow proper procedure because I didn't point which way the ball was going on a play where tough out of bounds play, the shot clock got screwed up, the game clock, and I got suspended for the Big East tournament because I didn't point which way the ball was going. And I called the Big East office up and said, I'll give you a couple days to rescind this because if you don't, I quit. And I quit the Big East. I'm the only referee to quit. And that's a conviction I had, and I think they were still wrong in the way they handled it. Back then, it was the commissioner was John Marinato, and the coordinating officials was Art Highland, and I think they handled it the wrong way, very unprofessional. I had nothing in my file for 28 years, and I just thought they handled it wrong.
So, what ultimately, it just came down to not pointing?
Yeah, I guess it was a week before Patino had lost the game that he wasn't happy with the officiating. He lost his game too. And Rick has a way of giving his way all the time. That's his MO. And he wanted a piece of somebody. And I guess they wanted a piece of me. And they told me I was suspended from the Big East tournament, which I found that very hard to comprehend and understand. And I thought, I'm not talking behind anybody's back, but I thought guys like Jim Berg, Tim Higgins, John Cale, Bob Donato, Eddie Corbett would have stuck up and just said, look, if Mike's not ref in the Big East tournament, we're not going to referee. And if they did that, they would have had to say, Mike's going to referee. But I talked to each one of them. They didn't feel comfortable doing it. But it's not that I'm talking behind their backs. I just thought they didn't handle it well.
Yeah, and you've had so many, moments over time where I'm sure different things come up and whatnot. And you've had to stand your ground. Is there a lot of politicking when it comes to officiating?
There is. You get to a certain level of politicking, but when the rubber hits the road, you got to be able to referee. When you get to a point where you're accepted around the whole country, you can do Big 12 games, you can do SEC, ACC. When I quit the Big East back then, Rick Biagis took over the Big Ten, and he called me up. He says, the word on the street is you quit the Big East. I said, yes, I did. He goes, well, if you come to the Big Ten, I'll give you 50 Big Ten games a year. So for my last 4 years, I refereed the Big Ten final and, retired at 64. So things have a way of working out for themselves. With me leaving the Big East, going with the Big Ten, now I probably wouldn't have got that position I'm in right now if I didn't do that. So it kind of worked out good. Things have a way of, working out for the best, and it did for me.
Yeah, and Mike, as we look at the history of it all, and there's so many things to unpack and to talk about with all of your, wealth of knowledge and wisdom and experience in the game of basketball, what would you say to somebody that, Mike Jr. and I talked a little bit ago in this officiating corner on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios, and Mike said, there's an issue with officiating now, and that there's, less people coming out, and there's a shortage, and it's gonna affect, games being played on Friday nights for football. It's gonna affect different things that are going on because there's not going to be officials for it. What can you say about the officiating shortage first and foremost? Because there's a few pieces I want to definitely unpack with you here, but what would you say about what should we know about the shortage of officials?
It's really a big problem, especially on a high school, junior high level. Even as a coordinator of Division III, with all the changes this year, I'm calling athletic directors to see if they can change a game from 12 o'clock or from 4 o'clock on a Saturday to 12 o'clock, because I might need a guy to do 2 games that day. And even on the junior high level here in Syracuse, they're not getting referees for the afternoon games. And they're calling the athletic directors and finding out if they can change the games because they don't have enough referees. What happens is that these young kids are going out there, and you got parents yelling and screaming at them in a 6th and 7th, 8th grade game. And you got these nut parents screaming and yelling, and these kids go, what am I doing this for $50? I don't need this aggravation. And that's what, and the other thing is that they got all these AU tournaments going on, and they can go and do these tournaments, pick up, I think it's $40 a game or $30 a game. So a lot of referees just get involved and do these AU tournaments because it's cash up front. You do 3 games and pick up $120. But this shortage is really getting to be a problem. I talked to a coordinator in Pennsylvania and he's having all sorts of problems getting referees to do games. And they got to call athletic directors and move dates around because they don't have referees enough to fulfill the games that they're scheduled for. It's a big problem.
So what would be your advice? What would be your, if somebody's out there considering being official, or maybe if they're not, what advice would you give, or what words would you give to somebody that is interested or could be interested in being an official, and why they should give it a shot?
I think the high school board, which is Board 38 in Central New York, I think they should.
Oh, Mike, we lost you here for a second. Can you hear us? We lost Mike here for a second, so we'll look to bring Kits back here and get his thoughts on what we were talking about here in the officiating corner on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. So let's see if we can get Mike back here on the broadcast. No, that's okay. So just wherever, I asked you the question and then it cut out. So what were you saying?
Yeah, the thing about, I would have if the high school board, which is Board 38, I'm not sure who the president is now right now because I'm not involved in the high school board. I think they should get a committee together and go around to these schools and talk to these juniors and seniors in high school and give them a background as far as this is what you can get. You stay involved in the game, you stay in shape, you get paid for it. I think we need people getting out there and getting the word out there that we have a shortage of officials, and I think the high school board could really get involved as far as maybe starting something that maybe get more of these young kids involved in it. I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad to hear something like this going on, but do you think that maybe the generation coming up now doesn't want to be on the other side of social media and doesn't want to be the one being screamed at? I mean, does that have something to do with detracting people?
Yeah, I know I thought of it that way, but I think so too. I mean, every time I turn around, somebody's got to. I don't even go on. I don't know how to go on social media. I don't want to know how to go on it. I could care what they're saying about me. I don't even go on to look and see what they're saying about Mike. I'm sure they're saying comments about Mike, but I just, with all the stuff that's going on with social media and the finger pointing all the time and missing this call and not doing this right, I think a lot of kids who want to get involved in it say, nah, I'm not going to put up with this. And I really think that's a big thing going on right now.
That coming here from Mike Kits, Sr. in our officiating corner on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. Your thoughts, we talked about the Garden before, your thoughts on the NIT not having the Garden for the 2023 and 2024 semifinals and championship game. Strange world of not having the NIT end in New York City in the Garden. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I just heard that a couple days ago, and I heard that they're looking at Hinkle Fieldhouse where Butler plays.
Okay, yeah.
And they're looking at in Las Vegas, one of the two, I guess. It's something that's been iconic associated with New York City and Madison Square Garden for the NIT. At one time, the NIT was bigger than the NCAA tournament years ago, but why they're not having any more at the Garden, I didn't hear that, but I did hear about the places they might have it, and I just think it's going to be a sad day when the NIT's not played at the Garden anymore.
You had the opportunity to be at the CBI, and you got to gauge Mike as well and what he was doing there and the officials. What did you take away from the CBI tournament down in Daytona?
It was a good tournament. 16 teams. I thought the best team was Drake, and they got upset. I can't remember who beat them. They were up 61-39 with 12:04 left in the game and blew the lead. But it was a good tournament. The final game, UNC Wilmington won in double overtime. I thought the officiating was good, and I brought a mixture of guys there from the Midwest and East, and they got together. They were all, the camaraderie between the 12 guys that I brought to referee was really, really good. I like, just even sitting on the beach watching those guys get along. That was more important to me than those guys going out and referee. I liked how they got along, and it was a bunch of good guys that had a good time, and we're happy for one another for what we each got during the season.
And and being able to see that camaraderie and that connection, how important are those moments to, people talk about team development and going to the movies or going bowling or doing something together to build camaraderie and a connection. How important is it for the officials to have that when any mixture of them could be working together in a game tomorrow?
Yeah, it was so important. I mean, I like what I saw between them all. They just, and I have a little discussion with them, and I throw out my ideas to them, start telling them what I like seeing them hanging out together, and always be happy for one another for what they get out of officiating. And don't be resentful because you got no control over your schedule. You don't pick what games you want. So when somebody gets something that you think you should get, be happy for them and don't be resentful. And that's really important to me. I want you to be competitive. I want you to compete against the other referee. But if you get something that you think you should have got, you got to be happy for them.
Yeah, and to shift gears to the NCAA tournament, you said you like being at Cameron Indoor besides, being at Madison Square Garden. That was your favorite. Coach K is in his last run. He has attained more Final Fours as a coach than anyone with 13. And then he's playing against the team who's been to more Final Fours than anybody in North Carolina with 21. What's your thoughts on Coach K? I mean, you've gotten to be at Cameron, you've gotten to officiate his games, and now, I told people before the tournament even started, if he makes it to the Final Four in his swan song, I'm not going to be surprised by any stretch of the imagination because it would be all too fitting for that to happen. So what's your take on Duke, North Carolina in the Final Four and Coach K getting an opportunity at another national championship before he's done?
I think it's great. Some people probably look down on his tour, call it Coach K tour or whatever it is. Everything he's getting, he deserves. He's been a great coach, great mentor to a lot of players and coaches. And I watched the last game of the year when he got beat at home by Carolina. Carolina played unbelievable the last 8-10 minutes of that game. So, and Duke's playing really good right now. It's going to be a hell of a game, for them to play the first time ever in the NCAA tournament, Duke, Carolina, and possibly could be his last game, or I'm sure he wants to win it all this year, which would be fitting for him. And I wouldn't put it past him, the way things happen to play out. I wouldn't put it past that team not to win it all this year.
Of the teams that are here, Duke, North Carolina, Kansas, and Villanova, a lot of history. Jay Wright voted Coach of the Decade recently. Jay Wright, I think this would be his third championship in like 5 or 6 years and something ridiculous. And then fourth overall for Villanova. We look at the fact that Kansas with Bill Self is a perennial contender. Coach K is Coach K, now with over 100 tournament wins and, over 1,100 overall wins and over 1,200. So, seeing him get 1,200 plus, 100 of those plus come in the NCAA tournament. And then you got Hubert Davis, who, takes over after Roy Williams steps down last season with no farewell tour and just says after the season last season, I'm done. So it's an interesting road that has been very unique with a lot of upsets, but ultimately it ends with teams that we know. So what are your thoughts on the Final Four?
It's ironic that I had that tournament Mohegan Sun early in the year with Tennessee, Purdue, Carolina, and I can't remember the 4th team, but I watched the games, and the Carolina really wasn't playing very well. They were probably the worst team in the tournament back in November, and he's done an unbelievable job getting those kids to come around and play together. I would have never thought that. I thought Purdue was the best team in the country back then, and they kind of stumped along the way against St. Peter's. But it was just, I think with those 4 teams, I mean, the one thing that hurts Villanova as a kid who got hurt, he's out for the rest of the year. He tore his Achilles or whatever. I had just heard that on TV. But that's going to hurt them. But it's not going to change the way Villanova's going to play. They're going to play tough. You got to be tougher than them, and it's going to be a good tournament. I'm leaving Thursday and going to the games on Saturday. Mike's going too, so that'll be a nice little trip. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, and it's going to be an amazing moment to see, all these coaches and all of these rivalries and all these big-time games to see this piece. Since the last time we talked, was there anything? I know there's been some close games and then also some blowouts here recently. Are there any plays that stuck out to you that you had to watch repeatedly in the NCAA tournament over this last week or so?
Yeah, the play where the kid stepped out of bounds for Arkansas and the baseline referee missed that play and they scored, which was huge. That play and the fourth and fifth fouls on the Holmgren kid in the Arkansas game. But other than that, I know they had some bumps on the road the first and second round, but this past weekend's been pretty. I haven't heard a whole lot this past weekend. I watched some games, I didn't watch a lot of the games, but what happens is the referee starts with 96 guys for the first and second round, and they go from 96 to 36. So if you get picked for this 36, which referee this past weekend, whether it's a semifinal game or a final game, you're all in the same boat. And they're going to take 9 out of the 36 for the Final Four, and they'll have 6 guys on Saturday's games and the 3 guys do the championship game. So guys are waiting today. They'll get a phone call between now and about 3 o'clock today to find out if they're going to the Final Four then.
Which is a really cool thing because there's essentially an officiating selection show going on today, which people don't know about that's going on in the background. So do you think, you've been tasked with going and watching officials around the country this season, and you've done it multiple times throughout your career. Are there any officials that you want to notably say you feel like have done a pretty consistently good, like when you look at the report card of officials, are there some officials out there that you feel like really have had themselves a good tournament?
I look at the big picture, included the season games or the league games during the year. I think DJ Carstensen from Utica, New York has had a great year. He refs mainly in the Big Ten. He's had no controversy, a lot of hard games. And I would like to see him. He's probably been in the regional this past weekend in that regional thing 8-10 years now. And I would hope he deserves a chance. But, again, I don't know the makeup, what they're looking at as far as who's going to get it. They always come up with one new guy, and then they usually put, 3 or 4 veterans who've been in that situation before, because it's not an easy situation to be in those kind of games, and you're under a lot of scrutiny. So there'll be 1 or 2 new guys out of the 9, and I'd like to see DJ get a shot. He deserves it.
What would you say to a new guy getting the Final Four?
I think back my first one in 1996 when Syracuse played at the Meadowlands. I had the Kentucky UMass game. It's a big deal. It's there's when it starts out, there's 1,200 referees in the country reffing games, and to be one of the 9 picked for a Final Four, which is it's a big deal, and there's a lot of pressure that comes with it. But you're in the position because you've done well. And people, the powers that be, think you should be there. So I enjoyed the 4 that I refereed in.
That coming from Kitsy, Mike Kitts Sr. And, Mike, as I told you off the air, you got a shout-out from Beth Ann Shapiro-Ord, and she's obviously the Binghamton Bearcats women's basketball head coach. Anything you want to say about Beth Ann and just, her family and what she's done over time, as she's had an incredible road of coaching in a lot of fantastic places and is now back in the state of New York to lead Binghamton?
Yeah, she's I haven't seen her in a while. I officiated quite a few games with her father. Merv Shapiro passed away. He worked at Monroe Community College. He was an administrator there, a coach there. Just a good guy that had some problems health-wise the last few years, and I hope she's doing all right, and I think she's a great person, a great coach, and looking forward to hooking up with her and seeing her again, saying hello.
Yeah, coming from Mike Kitts. Kitsy, as always, I appreciate you. You and I got some conversations to have as well this week, so I'll be giving you a call. But as always, thank you for everything that you've done, and don't go too hard on Mike, okay?
I'll call him right now. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Talk to you soon. Take care.
Bye-bye.
That coming from Mike Kitts Sr. once again here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. And, just phenomenal work, from Mike as well as his son, and just everything that they've done. And I appreciate it. I do. They represent Central and Upstate New York well, which is, where I hail from, and I appreciate that very much. And I just love the fact, they want to do this job, this thankless, constantly controversial job that is so, tough to do. And they both have taken it upon themselves to do it. So I respect them for that. I respect every official that steps out there and wants to give this thing a shot, because it's not an easy road to hoe. And as we talked about before, I don't think a neurosurgeon would want somebody in their surgery room screaming at them at the hospital while they're performing, brain surgery. So it's a very unique place, in that it's a place where while you're doing your job, people are screaming at you the whole time. And I think that the majority of people that do that, if they were at their job and someone was screaming at them and shaking their desk and yelling at them and threatening them and following them to their car and calling them and texting them, they probably wouldn't appreciate it. So in the world of an official, probably behooves people to understand that you don't have to agree with officials, but you probably wouldn't want somebody to treat you the way you're treating them, with all due respect. So with that being said, we'll take a step aside on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. Listen, I've been critical of officials too. There's calls that I thought were wildly wrong, but they're still people. So I have my thoughts, never a personal attack. Got to stay away from that. So with that being said, on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios, we got to do our officiating corner with Mike Kitts Jr. and Mike Kitts Sr. We'll take a step aside for our final fast break as we underpromise and overdeliver, giving you over 2 hours today in a conversation, well, multiple conversations that we've gotten to have with some awesome leaders connected with Central and Upstate New York. We'll be back right after this fast break inside the Cafe Kubal studios.
Cafe Kubal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafekubal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Kubal needs. Cafe Kubal, coffee for the soul.
This is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating. Find them at 201 Old 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and all the time online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, you can order all throughout the country at maandpaspopcorn.com. And remember to get your tins, which have in-store half-price refills forever. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, available to you for fundraising and all of your events by calling 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you? The Millhouse Market, located on 3790 New York 13 in Pulaski, New York, is worth the drive every time. Make sure you make your way out to the Millhouse Market every Tuesday through Sunday for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They have a ton of fantastic opportunities for you to connect with what they do, be it their indoor bistro menu that changes every single week, so you can come back and try something new inside of their restaurant. And, of course, their general store with local products from local companies with syrups and soaps and jewelry and honeys and so many awesome things that they have for your home. It is incredible what their general store offers because it's local products from local companies helping each other out, which I think is beautiful. And at the same time, their drive-through window where you can grab your food and go. And in the world we live in today, with contactless pay on the Millhouse Market app from the Google Play and Apple App Store, as well as the ability to grab your food through the drive-through and carry on your way, and in the busy world that we live in too. It's a very easy way to connect with the Millhouse Market and keep it simple. So I want to thank the Millhouse Market for all that they do, from their homemade breads to their desserts, their quinoa bowls, their rice bowls, their brick oven pizzas, sandwiches named after the families that helped to settle today's Pulaski. It is ingrained in our community and ingrained in our taste buds, folks. The Millhouse Market's second to none. You may have gone to a restaurant that you like. You may have found a muffin that you want to order. You may enjoy that type of pizza, but you've never had it like the Millhouse Market. I could say that. I've lived in different parts of the country. I've been in different places. I've traveled all over, and I can honestly tell you that the Millhouse Market is a steal for us in Central and Upstate New York. That's why they're worth the drive every single time. Download their app on the Google Play and Apple App Store, and once you order on the app, there's also a direction piece to the app where you can get directions from wherever you go to the Millhouse Market. Worth the drive every time to 3790 New York 13 in Pulaski, New York. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora from inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, I want to thank you for watching and listening to today's broadcast of Wake Up Call, and every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Truly appreciate you being here on YouTube.com, Facebook.com, and MixLR.com, all /Wake Up Call DT, and of course on WakeUpCallDT.com and on Facebook.com /LiveNowDT. Once the shows go live, you can hop into our archive and pick them up there on Stitcher, Spotify, MixLR, TuneIn, YouTube, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Podbean, and more. All you have to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on any one of these avenues, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. And of course, you can use a search engine and look up Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora and find the many ways to connect with us as well. Big thanks to our Central and Upstate New York partners and beyond: Cafe Kubal, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, PB&J's Lunchbox, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Avicoli's, Ma and Pa's Popcorn.com, where you can go online to Ma and Pa's Popcorn.com and order from anywhere in the country. And of course, you can go to 201 Old 7th North Street in Liverpool to their location to Ma and Pa's and try some amazing flavors, things that you've thought of, and some things that your wildest imagination could not even think could be kettle corn flavors, and they are. All right, we continue our tournament, and whoever wins our Ma and Pa's bracket challenge is going home with a bag of their famous kettle corn, which I'm very excited for that opportunity, and I thank everybody that joined us for the challenge. Honda City of Liverpool, the Millhouse Market, Pizza Man, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay, Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, Mother's Cupboard, and of course our exclusive multimedia marketing partnerships with your Lemoyne College Dolphins. It is Fins Up every single Wednesday on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. You can connect with us at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. First and third Wednesday of every single month, you have AD and DT with Athletics Director Bob Beretta and myself, Dan Tortora, focusing on a specific topic every episode to bring to you Wednesdays at 9 a.m. every first and third Wednesday of each month. And this week we have a bonus one for the month of March. And of course, every second and fourth Wednesday, we have the Dolphin Dive, where we dive into stories from coaches, student athletes, staff members, as well as future Dolphins and alumni. You can catch the Dolphin Dive every second and fourth Wednesday of each month, exclusively on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. And of course, you can find all of our Dolphin content by going to the Lemoyne tab on WakeUpCallDT.com, which includes a button to click for their composite schedule that will let you know all the teams in action every single week, all throughout the year, on your Lemoyne Dolphin calendar. And of course, you can go to YouTube.com /WakeUpCallDT, subscribe to us there, and get all of our Dolphin content as well. And for more information, you can go to LemoyneDolphins.com. The Marywood Pacers are front and center on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora and our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership as well, where we get to tell the stories of the president of Marywood University, Sister Mary Persico, as well as Executive Director of Athletics Pat Murphy, student athletes, and coaches all throughout the year. The Marywood Pacers are front and center on Fridays in our Pacer Pride exclusive specials, and those airing around 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time every Friday on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. You can get those specials and so much more, including a composite schedule for the Marywood Pacers, by going to our Marywood tab on wakeupcalldt.com. You can find our entire library of content by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt and clicking on the Marywood content that we have there. And of course, you can find more information by going to marywoodpacers.com. The Bobcats also have an exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora and Dan Tortora Broadcast Media. You can connect with your Bryant Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse every single month on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, with specials like the one you saw today featuring Athletic Director, men's soccer head coach, and multi-time national champion Nick Dimitrievski. You can get his show as well as all of our content in Bobcat Buzz special episodes airing only on Wake Up Call, and those can be found on the BSC SYR tab on wakeupcalldt.com, and of course by subscribing to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt for our Bryant and Stratton College of Syracuse content. You can get more information by going to syracuse.bscbobcats.com, and we got some great opportunities coming up here very soon, including with Alex Grigorita next week in an all-new Bobcat Buzz. I want to thank you for tuning into today's broadcast inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. I want to implore you to head out to Cafe Kubal today, 343 Fayette Street, Manlius, as well as the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners in North Syracuse. And you can go to 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, and 401 South Salina Street, all in Syracuse, and inside of Galisanos Children's Hospital in downtown Syracuse for Cafe Kubal. In the meantime, thank you for everything. Thank you to Nick Dimitrievski, Mike Kitts Jr., and Mike Kitts Sr. for their time, getting to bring you an all-new edition of the Bobcat Buzz, as well as an officiating corner going behind the curtain and behind the stripes of being an official with Mike Kitts Jr. and Mike Kitts Sr. And as always, I thank you for being a part of the show. Beyond all things, thank you to God. Thank you to my incredible loved ones and to all of the fantastic support I have. We'll see you tonight at the Wildcat as we celebrate the championship run for West Genesee football, and we bring back some of the players from that team as well as their head coach, Joe Corley. We get to have that tonight at the Wildcat here on Monday, March 28th at 6 p.m. So I'll see you out at the Wildcat tonight. And in the meantime, God bless, no stress, do your best. Find us on the social media. Be good, be safe, be well, and always remember that you're important, you're special, you matter, and the God that created you didn't make a mistake in bringing you to this world. So do the best you can, be the best you can, and don't let anybody take from you who you are. I appreciate you, I send you my love, and God bless you as always. Be good.